This is episode one of Chain Chatter. I just want to get on here and pretty much just chat about how I believe that people should start in disc golf and what I should have done. I hope y'all enjoy. I think playing par 3 courses is important to developing your game. Obviously, I'm the type of guy that, I want to get out to a course and throw some bombs. But it's important to work on your short game just as much as it is important to work on your long distance game. And to be a well-rounded player, because you want to go out to any sort of course that you visit or that you want to be good at, and you want to have a well-rounded game, and it's important to work on both. So playing par 3 courses that are, probably about 3,000 to 4,000 feet long or less, maybe, is important. I highly recommend going out and learning how to throw your putters that far. That will definitely develop your arm a lot better. I feel like that's a very underrated training exercise and how to get better at throwing longer distances. Everyone wants to buy a distance driver or a fairway driver that's understable and just crank it out in the field. That's not necessarily the best way to do it all the time. You're going to wear your arm out. The best way to do it is with a slower speed disc, and that would be a putter. Or an approach disc, that's fine. But shorter range discs will help you develop a more strategic and accurate game more than anything. Distance comes with time. Distance comes with muscle memory. Distance comes with muscle development because you're working on different muscles when you're throwing a disc in your arm, in your hips, in your legs, right? In your upper body in general. You're using a completely different set of muscles than what you're using in an average or other sport that you play. Or if you're new to this sport and sports in general, this is like your first sport that you want to get into, then yeah, you're going to be doing everything completely different than what you would be just walking down the road, obviously. And so developing your game starts with putters. I believe working on your putting game is very important. It is the most important thing you can do. If you're not out there throwing out in the field or that sort of stuff in training to prepare yourself to get better at courses, you at least need to spend most of your time putting. Putting is 80% of the game. That's how I think of it. Obviously, it's probably like 50-50 because you're throwing 50 amount of times from the box and you're putting 50 amount of times on average. So obviously it's not 80%, but that's what I instill in my head, right? It is 80% of the game. That's what it is. And I leave the 20% to the rest. But putting is by far the most important thing that you can develop to be a good player. And so spend your time putting and spend your time finding a good throwing putter for you. My personal favorites right now, a little bit of a shorter one that's overstable is the Berg X. I really like that as a throwing putter. I can blast it down the field, or I can take a little bit of a shorter approach and keep it short and simple. And then one that I can really bomb, I don't even know why, but the K1 Soft Reiko. The K1 Soft Reiko is a very bendy, malleable, very gummy disc. And so it's very understable for a putter, because the flight number is 3202, maybe. Somewhere around there. But it's a further putter as far as throwing wise. It goes further than the Berg X, okay, or any other Berg. And so the Reiko is also what I putt with, but I putt with the K3s. But my throwing putter, my throwing Rayco is the K1 Soft. And I can blast it down the field. I mean, I can really rip into it. I can put it on a steep Annie, throwing out to the left side and just watching it fade out and turn over to the right side. I have some videos on that. Just throwing a standstill shot with the Rayco and like throwing it like 190 feet or something. And great throwing putters. Great. I believe that sticking with those sort of things, sticking with the basics, like I said, just those three discs. If you start off with those sort of 3 discs, right? I believe that you'll be better than most of the players that start out with the putter, the mid-range, the fairway driver, the distance driver. If you stick with just those 3 discs and you learn how to throw your throwing putters and you learn how to putt, you'll be much better as a player overall, and you'll get further into the game at a quicker speed than most players. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have stuck to throwing putters and putting as my basics and as my foundation, because that is your foundation. And disc golf, throwing putters and putting is your complete foundation. No buts about that, right? Because if you don't have that, then you don't have the basic foundations of disc golf. Because most of the time, you're going to be throwing putters, especially if you have a quick arm speed, you got a lot of snap in your arm, you're going to be throwing putters a lot then, especially on like short par 3 courses, approach shots, stuff like that, stuff that makes your game what it is and that completes your game. You'll only throw long distance shots for certain holes and certain courses. If you're in an area where there's a lot of long distance courses, like, okay, then maybe you probably want to like disc up to like a mid range. But don't touch a fairway driver or a distance driver. For, I would say 2 to 3 months, if you play consistently, I would say 4 times a week at least. Okay, that is not an at most thing. This is an at least 4 times a week. If you're playing 4 times a week for I'd probably say 3 months. 3 months, okay, now start investing into mid-ranges, fairways, distance drivers. Go to par 3 courses and throw putters. Do not throw mid-ranges. Do not throw fairways. Do not throw distance drivers. Go to your local par 3 and throw the shorter range options. Go out to a field. In fact, an even better option, if you're not near one, buy a disc golf basket. Find a field that's near you and set up like a par 3 course. Just bring the basket out there to a field, set it up. If you live out in the country, whatever, and you have a really big lot, you got a lot of land, even better, right? And practice throwing to that basket. And you're like, well, how can I measure up distance? How can I know that I'm throwing at a good amount of distance? Well, first of all, type in ChatGPT, what is the average distance for throwing putters and disc golfers? And it'll break it down, the distances. Okay, that's step 1. Download UDisc. UDisc, you don't have to get the pro version. You can stay with the basic version for as long as you want to. I like the pro version because it gives me everything I need. I don't have to worry about anything. I stick with the pro version because it's awesome. UDisc is the tool, is a great tool. You don't have to have a rangefinder. You don't have to Google disc golf courses. It's all on one app for you. You can measure throws. I'm trying to think of all the free stuff you can do. It shows you stores near you that possibly or that have discs. And so UDisc is a tool. It is a cheat code into the world of disc golf. It shows you tournaments nearby. Um, just everything about UDisc is amazing. Use it. Learn how to use it. Okay? That being said, you can you can measure throws on the app itself, and I feel like it's very accurate for what it is. Probably not as accurate as a rangefinder, but it gives you a rough idea, and that's all you need. You just need the rough idea and to get you to where you need to go. Okay, that's the important thing about it. It can give you a rough estimate. Better than just walking out in the field and pacing with your feet. And so you can measure throws, and so get out there with a disc golf basket, or most of the time, I threw without a basket, and so go out there in the field and just have a rough idea, put a stake in the ground, and then practice that way, and find a stake, just put it in the ground, and then mark it with your UDisc app, and there you go. Now you're going to start figuring out footage on your discs already, and you have your putter, your putting putter, and your throwing putters, and you stick with those, and you learn how to throw them. And just kind of breaking down the science of disc golf. So a higher speed disc, right? Fairway drivers, distance drivers. The higher of a speed disc, the harder it is to throw. And so you can have bad form, but you can have a lot of torque and a lot of power, but not necessarily the good, perfect form. You could be throwing your putters, let's say 200 feet. But if your form isn't that great, but you got that power to get it 200 feet, your distance drivers might just be going the same distance. Okay? Probably about 10 to 20 feet extra, maybe, right? And that's kind of the funny thing about it, because you have to have developed form to know how to throw a driver, okay? Because it's a different feel and it's a different disc. You can't throw the same way you do a putter than you do a driver. And so you might be throwing the same exact distance. And so learn and stick with putters. Again, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have, when I first started out, I wish I would have stuck with throwing putters and learning how to putt properly. Because, man, I would have been way much further than what I am now, because I wanted to get good at everything all at one time. That's not how you are supposed to do it, and that's not what you want to do, because you'll get burnt out. You'll get stressed, you'll get annoyed, all the things. If you're out on a course and you can only throw your putter 150 feet, that's 150 feet that you're throwing consistently. Because if you learn how to just throw that exact disc every time, you'll get really good at that exact disc. You'll know exactly its gimmicks, you'll know exactly its feel, you'll be familiar with it. You don't have to have a distance driver to go super far. In fact, you're probably not even going to go much further than what you're throwing a putter, okay? So again, choose a good putter. I think the K1 Soft Rayco is such a good throwing putter, especially for beginners, but even for like advanced players, intermediate, pro, everyone can use this putter. I think it's a great throwing putter. It's unbelievable. It holds its line so well, and it's so easy to flip it over and turn over. It's an amazing disc, K1 Soft Rayco, okay? And so as a beginner, I would recommend that disc. I would recommend getting the K1 Soft Rayco and learning how to throw it, because it's so easy to throw. It stays on its line. It's like a Berg, but it just goes further. Pretty much that's just what it is. And it's super gummy, super flippy. You don't have to worry about it getting broken over time too much, because it's already super gummy and bendy, so you don't have to worry about chipping or any of that, because when it hits something, it flexes, it bends. And that's what's so awesome about the disc. You can sit there and hit trees all day and it won't affect the flight. So again, great disc, especially for those like techie par 3 courses that are in the woods, and you're gonna hit a tree. You know what I mean? It's bound to happen. You're gonna be hitting trees. And so the disc is quite literally perfect. Quite literally perfect. I wish I started out on this disc. And so get that disc and throw it around. And you'll see your game improve in ways that other people's aren't. You just will. You know what I mean? Like let's say you and a buddy start playing and he gets the full set, starter set, where he gets the driver mid-range putter deal, right? You'll be much more improved in 3 months' time than he will be. He's still stuck on trying to learn 3 different styles of discs, while you've just mastered and you've pretty much put yourself at a pretty advanced beginner in 3 months' time at a certain style of disc, because you stuck with it. You stayed committed to a good disc, which is why it's important to get a good disc off the bat and learn how to throw a good disc than a bad disc. Get what I'm saying? So your investment isn't as much. You're not just sitting here buying discs, whatever. Get a good disc. It's going to be more expensive up front. You know what I mean? And, if you want to go to Play It Again Sports or somewhere like that, that's like reselling discs or whatever, do that. Get a cheap discs, whatever. But I would recommend going to Castaplast, getting the K1 Soft Rayco, getting a Berg or Berg X, whatever you like more, whatever appeases you more, and getting some good putters, whether it's Tooth or the Rayco. I would recommend do not putt with like the K1 Soft Rayco, or do not putt with the Berg X. Okay, putt with like the K3 Rayco and the Tooth. That is more ideal. And so I know I've been talking forever, but I'm very passionate on people starting well. And in fact, I kind of led some people astray at times where people would want to come out and play with me, and I would immediately put them on the fairway drivers or mid-ranges, distance drivers. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done what I know now, which is start with the throwing putters. Start with a well-known putter that is a good thrower, and if you want to throw the Luna, because Anthony Barella and Paul McBeth are throwing it, sure, go for it. Those are very well-known. That's a very well-known throwing putter. But as far as Castaplast goes, you can't beat the K1 Soft Rayco. It's so money. It's so money every time. You cannot beat it. Or the Berg. And everyone throws the Berg, but not everyone throws the Rayco. I think the Rayco is a better version of the Berg. The Berg is a little bit of a shorter distance disc, but the Rayco is a further distance disc. But anyhow, so yeah, I get your hands on them. Get your hands on them and learn them. And going back to what I was saying earlier, you would much rather, as a player, want to throw accurate and straight. You'll much rather want to do that, because you're going to be looking at your friend who's got that starter set within his first time playing, and now he's throwing off way to the right, way to the left, and you're going to be throwing maybe 100 feet, but you're going to be throwing straight. And that's the important thing about it. Or you're going to be hitting your line, not necessarily straight, but you're going to be hitting your lines. Like if you need to throw a hyzer, you got the hyzer. If you want to throw an ante, you got the ante. If you need to throw straight, you got the straight line. So because you've gotten so good at this disc and you understand it, you got a well more rounded game than a guy who's got the whole set. You know what I mean? It's a cheaper alternative. It's cheaper and it's better for your game.